Alright, so I would recommend that you download the instructions from the assignment because it has pictures. This is just straight text, but if you have the assignment and you have the document that comes with it, you will have pictures. Alright, so our objective is to configure basic settings on a wireless router and connect a wireless client. Alright, so this is a normal scenario at your house. You have a laptop, you have a PC, you have a home router. We need to connect the router, and we're going to use a straight through copper cable. And it says it right down here at the bottom. If you look at the bottom of your screen, it'll say copper crossover or copper straight through or console, etc., etc. So we're going to use a copper straight through, and we're going to plug it into the Ethernet ports. Ethernet. I don't care if it says fast Ethernet. I'm looking for the word Ethernet. And don't care about the gigabit. I'm looking for the word Ethernet. And I'm going to plug it in. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to fast forward this. And you got this little fast forward button. And basically it speeds up or fast forwards time to show that you have a connection to green dots. Next, I need to go into the desktop and change it to DHCP. It will say requesting IP address, and it says successful. I need to note my default gateway, because when you look at the instructions and you scroll down, because this is where we're at, we open PC tab, opened IP configuration, set it to DHCP. We're going to look at this information on our IP addresses and see which one matches. See, if you see these IP addresses, they're 192.168.1.1. There's 192.168.0.1, 192.68.2.1. Alright, so you have, looks like 192.168.0.1 is our router. Now, these routers all use the same, by default, most of your home routers use the 192.168 addressing scheme, okay? Now, you will need to know the username, the default username and password that's provided in the documentation inside of the box of the router. By default, Linksys or Cisco routers default with a username of admin and admin. So we are going to go to our desktop. We got to close this app because we're successful. And we need to go over here to our web browser. If you have your screen a little bigger than mine, then web browser should show up. And we are going to type in the address of 192.168.0.1. Okay? It will ask us for a username and password. Our username is admin. Our password is admin. And we're going to click OK. Now, I like to stretch this out so I can see all of it. If you notice the information, there is a little bit more information. If you notice, this little bar across the bottom tells me that there's a little bit more information. When the bar goes away, I know that I have all the information width-wise. Now, horizontally, I still have more information as indicated by my scroll bar on the right side. All right. Our next set of instructions talks about the internet setup. Use DHCP for the internet setup, and that's code word for internet connection type, and it's automatic to DHCP. We don't have an internet connection, so there's not going to be any information here in this to change, nor will there be any information provided telling us what our IP address is. All right, so we're going to set up, if you look at the instructions, it wants us to set up an IP address on the system with this. That's a different network. 192.168.100 is different than 192.168.0. So I'm going to change, because my router information is going to have to change, right? My new router address is going to be this. The /24 right here is an abbreviated form of 255.255.255.0. It's known as a CIDR notation. We will discuss this more later. What that really means is there's 24 bits turned on. 8 bits per octet. 255 is an octet, 255 is an octet, 255 is an octet, and 0 is an octet. And the maximum number in each octet is 255. So all of the ones are turned on in the first octet in binary. And we're talking about 32 bits, so there's 8 bits turned on, plus 8 bits turned on, plus 8 bits turned on, equals 24 bits turned on. The remaining 8 are turned off as indicated by the 0. That's a short explanation of that. So I'm going to change that to 100. And I want my maximum number of DHCP users to be 150. So I'm just going to put a 1 right there. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and save my settings. Now when I save my settings, I will lose connection. Why? Because my router address is not 192.168.0.1 anymore. It is now 192.168, whoops, wrong number, 192.168.100.1. Okay? So I need to take all of this out, change it to 192.168.100.1 does not work. Wait a minute. I need to close my web browser, and I need to go back to my IP configuration. There's the problem right there. My IP address is changed to 169.254. blah blah. Anytime I see a 169.254, it means that this computer was not able to access DHCP and get a new number. Now, it will automatically try this, and it will change, and it will say, hey, okay, now I see the server. Oh, okay, now I'm going to request a new IP address. Oh, okay, here's my new IP address. Now you can force that manually by just clicking on static and back to DHCP, and it will see that change the number. I'm not 100 anymore, I'm 101. And my gateway is 192.168.100.1, which is what we set our DHCP to start at. Well, we didn't set it, it was just kind of default there. So I'm going to go up here and put in this 192.168.100.1, and it's going to ask me for the username and password. Now, I've only got like 7 more minutes in this recording. I can only record 15 minutes at a time, so there will be some stuff that you will have to work on your own. But I'm going to show you where you would go to do that. Okay? Now, if we look through here, we can see that our router is 192.168.100.1. We have a maximum number of users as 150. Our starting IP address is at .100. That all looks fine. So we don't need to be on this page anymore. We now need to go to our wireless. Now, there are 2 sets of menus. The top menu is indicated in the black bar. Setup, wireless, security, access restrictions, applications and gaming, administration, and status. Okay? Wireless settings are what we're going to deal with. There are 3 radios in this router. A 2.4 gigahertz radio and 2 5 gigahertz radios. it wants us to set, according to the instructions, the SSID as home.net or home-net. If I go clear to the top, there is a table. It says to set the 2.4 gigahertz as home-net. Home-net for the 2.4 gigahertz. The first, or the number 2 5 gigahertz radio, home-net 2. The next one for radio 1 5 gigahertz, home-net 3. Now, do you see anything on here about a passphrase? You see anything here about a passphrase in any of these settings? If your answer was no, you are correct. So we are going to save the settings. If we change our menu here, now, we lose our settings. We must save our settings. Our router may or may not restart, and it may or may not refresh the screen. Notice that my completion rate has gone up to 66%. My next item that I need to do, and we can go back to the settings to make sure that it's still there and it did save. It looks like it did. Wireless security needs to be set at what? When we look down through here, we need to set to WPA2 personal. All right. Let's look at this. WPA2 personal. Okay, what's our passphrase? Now, if we go back to the top, we're going to set all of them to WPA2 personal. Our passphrase for the 2.4 gigahertz is Cisco 123. Our passphrase after setting to WPA2 personal for the 5 gigahertz -2, and you need to pay attention to this. I may have made a typo, but I'm gonna put it in as it says here because our instructions say that. 5 gigahertz, and it's the 1 radio. Cisco. Well, it's 12351. Change our next radio to WPA2. Whoops. WPA2 personal. Got to make sure you got that. Don't worry about the AES. Just leave it as it is. And this is going to be Cisco 12352. Now I'm going to go down and I'm going to save my settings. It may refresh the page and it may not. I don't know. Now, I'm really running out of time. You need to go to administration and set your router password to this. All right? Now that we're done with our PC after we've set our router, our laptop PC appears to automatically have connected, so I didn't set things up right. So you get to look at this, and when I went to my desktop, I'm going to go back to my desktop. There we go. I'm going to go to the PC wireless icon, and under that I'm going to connect, and it will list the different radios. Try to connect to the different radios, and then click to connect and put the password in. Okay? And it will connect you to the specific radio. Now, if I'm looking at my instructions, I should have 90% because I need to go in and I need to connect and or change my router password. All right? Does anybody have any questions about that? If so, post them in chat and we will discuss them.